People frequently ask me what I do for fishing fun when I don't have a television camera anywhere nearby. I go crappie fishing every time. I love to catch them. Well, this week, I'm gonna get to do something fun and shoot a little video at the same time, doing something truly unique, a great new way to catch crappie at a place I've never seen before. Glad you're along with us. Let's Fish TV is on the air right now. That is a fish. Oh man, look at this.
It's time for the only program that brings you real-time fishing reports from the Southwest region every week.
Oh my gosh. Oh, look at that. Woo!
This is Let's Fish.
Hey everybody, welcome into this week's episode of Let's Fish. Have you ever heard of sight fishing for crappie? That's what we're going to do in the next half hour using some very unique gear. You might not have ever seen anything exactly like this before. To help us demonstrate this, I'd like to welcome you in for my first trip ever, right out there to Dirks Lake, Arkansas. We are located in the southwestern part of the state. Dirks Lake is one of a chain of 3 or 4 different lakes here, and they've all got big old crappie in them. We hope to show you some coming up in the next few minutes. To help us do that, I've brought the Caymas CX21 with me to Arkansas. It's fully loaded with all the top-end components, lots of deck fishing space, just everything you could ever want in a top-of-the-line bass boat in the Caymas CX21. I've got my Mercury Pro XS 250 4-stroke hanging off the back. While we're out catching these crappie, we're going to be taking you around your local region for this week's fishing reports from our expert team of insider reporters from lakes, rivers, and bays right near you. They'll give you the saltwater, freshwater fishing forecast for this coming weekend. Right now, we're going to take this Caymas CX21, ease out to the river channel, start doing a little crappie fishing. Maybe you've never seen catching them like we're going to catch them coming up. Right now, let's get it all started back at the studio and your weekend planner.
Hey everybody, and glad you're with us. The cylinder tables are indicating good game fish activity for both days this weekend. Peak daytime hours begin at 1:35 Saturday and 2:20 on Sunday afternoon. The best nighttime fishing will begin after 1:20 Saturday and 2 o'clock Sunday night. The sun will rise at 6:47 and set at 8:07, and evenings will have a moon that is only 6% visible. Make sure to stick around. We've got fishing reports from across the area on the other side. Plus, I'll return with Bassmaster Elite Angler Todd Otten to answer this week's Ask the Pro question. Stay with us.
Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Mercury. Go boldly. Lowrance, America's #1 fish finder. Lose, feel the difference. And by Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, Alabama. Get our free fishing guide at orangebeach.com.
All right, there's one to get it started. And there is my very first Dirks Lake crappie. And he got it. That is so cool. All right, there's one to get it started. Good crappie. There we go. There's a start. We've made it, everybody. And there is my very first Dirks Lake crappie. Caught him on a little Slab Hunter by Bobby Garland. There you go. Welcome out on the lake. This is just a beautiful place. Southwestern Arkansas has got all these lakes. Let me get you set up on this, but the first thing I'm going to do is show you that, and I'm going to stick this one in the live well there, getting kept today. Hang on. First one. Okay, well, let me get you set up on where we are and what we're doing here. Dirks Lake is one of a chain of 3 lakes here in this part of the state of Arkansas. Gillum, DeQueen are the other 2. They're all about the same size. They're about 1,200 surface acres, but they got a lot of shoreline because, as you can see on the map I'm showing you here, they've got arms that run off, fingers that run off everywhere. So there's really a lot of fishing water here. They're all fairly clear lakes, fairly deep, and they've got bass, crappie, catfish, all your normal freshwater species for this part of the state. They're flood control lakes. They're controlled by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but they are loaded with really good-sized crappie, and lots of them. They don't get a lot of pressure because they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Now, in addition to these 3 lakes, you've also got Greason, which is an incredible crappie and bass fishing lake, a little bit further to the east from here. And then south of here, you've got Millwood. And all these lakes have kind of their own characteristics. But Dirks Lake here, my first time here, but as you can see, it's just a beautiful lake with rolling hills and mountains around it. And that's my very first crappie. So we're going to talk about a particular way we're going to catch crappie today. I've got my Lowrance LiveSight unit cranked up here, and we're actually sight fishing these crappie, and I'll explain what they're doing and why. But that gets you started. We're off to a good start. Got the first crappie in the live well.
Hey, bass, crappie, and sunfish are all called warm water species for good reason. And as our water temperatures continue to warm in the state of Oklahoma, in spite of those crazy cold fronts we had roll through, the fishing activity for all 3 is really picking up throughout the state. Now, I mentioned about 3 weeks ago that I was doing a little scouting to find a place where I could take the grandkids to catch some fish. Well, I met the little guys at Fort Gibson Lake fishing off the dock there where we have a boat slip. Now's a really good time to get those little guys out. Of course, practice your safe social distancing. What we were doing, well, in fact, let me have these little guys tell you exactly what we were doing.
We're using a number 7 split shot and a 6 golden Labrador hook. We're catching these guys 4 to 5 feet deep. We're catching them on these big old fat worms.
Well, as you can tell, we had a fun afternoon outing, caught a lot of sunfish, mostly bluegills, but a few different species of sunfish, and it was just a really good time that made us forget about all the craziness going on elsewhere in the world. And even the little guys know
you can't catch them if you don't go fast.
I'm watching these fish on my screen, and I got one. I got that fish. Good Lord, I saw that fish. Good one, good one. Don't jump. You don't jump. You don't jump unless you jump in my net. And I mentioned to you that we were sight fishing today for crappie. Now that, you may say that just doesn't sound right. And I don't mean up in shallow water sight fishing like looking for them on beds spawning. By the way, we're going to keep a few crappie today, so that one's going in the live well. I'm going to put him in here just for a moment. What I'm talking about is my electronics. I've got a piece of gear. It's made by Lowrance. It's called a LiveSight transducer, and I'll pick up my trolling motor and show you what it looks like. I've got it actually mounted to the shaft of my foot control trolling motor, my Motorguide Tour Pro. And I'm using my foot pedal to sweep and scan left and right in front of the boat. It sends out a radar, a beam signal, a sonar signal horizontally in the water column, bounces back, and you can actually see what's around you. I've got it set on 40 feet, so I'm scanning 40 feet in all directions. And then when I actually see a fish, I can pitch to it, let that jig drop down on it, and actually catch fish that I'm seeing. And I'll show you a quick shot of what a little group of fish looks like, and we'll highlight them here. And then I can watch my jig go down through that school of fish, and many times I can actually see the fish bite my lure, which is exactly what I saw then. So that's what we're doing. We're sight fishing crappie today. We'll talk more about that, but we've got a pattern going, got a few fish in the boat, and this one goes in the live well. There we go. Arkansas crappie, baby. Nice one. How about that big one? The fish is behind me. I passed over that fish. I bet you I get him to bite. Got him. Good one. Good one. That's a big old crappie. There we go. Wow, welcome back everybody. We're still catching these crappie. Arkansas crappie, baby. Nice one. How about that big one? Well, let me tell you, we are doing this sight fishing today. Looking at them on my graph as we showed you, watching the fish. I literally saw that fish in there were 3 fish together, and I saw him peel away from the other 2, come over to my lure, and then I felt the bite. That is just so very cool. And I will tell you this style of fishing is not for everybody. It is very technical. It requires some skill. It requires getting used to these electronics. It requires some specialized gear. You know, there are lots of ways you can catch crappie. You don't have to catch them this way. There's all kinds of long lining, spider rigging, vertical jigging in brush, dabbling in shallow brush, slip bobber with a jig. You can just use a cane pole and a minnow and catch a crappie. They're just prolific in rivers and lakes and reservoirs all across the southeast and southwest region. They're one of the most plentiful fish there are, and there are a myriad of ways to catch them. I just thought it would be cool to show you this way because it's something that's not done very much. It's becoming more popular as people are discovering these electronics and what they're capable of. You can catch them this way, but this way is not for everybody, and it does require some specialized gear and a lot of practice and a lot of looking at that graph and learning what you're looking at. But it can pay off with some of the biggest crappie in the lake because they don't see a lot of the lures that those crappie up next to the bank see.
Hey friends, Captain Kevin Broussard here with a Let's Fish Outdoor Report. I tell you what, we're gonna start off down around Breton Sound. Brett Ortiz went out there yesterday, caught lots of redfish, speckled trout, caught the redfish, sight casting spoons, soft plastics on light jig heads. The trout, I tell you what, didn't seem to matter. He caught them on top water, soft plastics. He even brought some live shrimp and did pretty well on that. Tell you what, the Atchafalaya Basin right now, lots of fish getting caught. Bass, brim, white perch. Brim on crickets, white perch on shiners, bass, early in lake, top water, buzzbait, spinnerbait seems to be the best right there. The main thing is, enjoy some of this weather, get out there and go fishing. For Old Cajun Phil, Captain Kevin Broussard saying happy fishing and may God bless. We're gonna see you next week.
Hi folks, this week's Lone Star Lakes is brought to you once again by the good folks at Fort Worth Fishing. Not only are they DFW's premier guide service specializing in crappie, but they'll even fix you a shore lunch on your trip if that's something you'd like. Now this week we're going to start at Lake Livingston, where there is a fantastic blue cat bite. You'll find them up very shallow early in the morning along bulkheads around the boat docks and such. Once the sun gets up, they'll drop back off towards creek channels and main lake points where there's some timber. And I want to take just a minute to talk about the COVID-19 outbreak. Our Texas lakes are open. You will, however, find that some of the access points like your marinas, your municipal parks, things such as that may be closed, so you'll want to call ahead. Now, most Texas state parks are open, but the offices are closed. You'll need to use a self-pay station when you enter the park. And you'll want to be sure that they have openings. Check the reservations ahead of time. That's this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you by Fort Worth Fishing. Be sure and check us out on Facebook, Lone Star Lakes.
Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Motorguide Tour Pro, cable steer motor with GPS anchor. Waypoint Marine, the Gulf Coast's leading saltwater boating specialist. Strike King, Taiwan On, and by Low Boats. Welcome to Low Country.
What a big old giant crappie that is. Oh man, that is so fun. I see him, there he is, I'm gonna get a bite. Got him. Saw him on the graph, swam up there and ate a big one. That's a big one. Come in my boat, there we go. Wow, that is so cool. Sight fishing for crappie on Dirks Lake, Arkansas. Well, you know, folks just would not believe how many crappie there are literally just swimming around out here in open water. As you can see behind me, we're not up around any brush, trees, timber, rocks, stumps, pole trees, shoreline, grass, nothing. There is nothing to hold these fish except bait. So they're just swimming around out here following the bait. Occasionally there'll be one pole or one stump of a tree, one trunk standing up, and they'll kind of mill around that. But for the most part, these fish are just wandering around out here in deep water. And really the depth of the water doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're in 20 feet or 80 feet of water. They're doing the same thing. They're not on the bottom. Bottom matters none. So you're actually looking at about the top 20 feet of the water column and just watching to see where those fish are. I'm literally just scanning back and forth, and I'm pitching that jig out there in front of them and swimming it down and lifting it up through them. And man, these are aggressive fish out here. One cool thing, fish that aren't on cover are usually much more aggressive than the ones that are up around that brush, because they get beat on by a lot of boats and a lot of fishermen a lot. They get a lot of pressure. That fish right there, he hasn't seen very many lures in his lifetime. He's going in the live well though.
Hi folks, Captain Greg Verm here for this week's Lower Texas Coastal Report. Hey, I just got off the phone with Captain Wayne Davis. He is my top expert down in Port Mansfield area, and Captain Wayne said fishing is extremely hot right now. Hey, the tides are extremely high and fish are very shallow in flooded flats and the small spoils. Hey, the fish are very active and eager to slam topwaters and K-Wiggler willowtails. Captain Wayne said natural colors are working best, especially the K-Wiggler turtlegrass color. Hey, water temps are in the mid to upper 70s and sometime reaching up into the 80s, so wet wading is becoming an option. Hey, now let's talk Baffin Bay. Captain Chris Elliott is still on an amazing topwater bite in shallow water. Also, after the topwater bite plays out, hey, Captain Chris is drifting in 2.5 to 3.5 foot of water using soft plastics. He's catching tons of trout, working those soft plastics through the grass beds. Hey, this is a great way to get beginners and kids on a very solid bite using artificial lures. Hey, now if you're ready to get out on the water here in Galveston or Freeport, I would love to take you and your family fishing. Give me a call and let's fish.
There he comes. I can see him. I can see him following my bait. Got him. Can you believe that? Here he comes. Big one, big one, big one. It's the biggest one yet. Golly, can you believe that? We showed that on that graph. You saw that fish come away from the other little school he was in and whack it. What a big old giant crappie that is. Oh man, that is so fun. This is really a fun way to catch them. I'll tell you, Dirks Lake is it's a cool place. I've never been here before, but it's, number one, it's loaded with these big old crappie. These guys that I talked to, Chance and Dustin, the guy that guides here and some of these other lakes I told you about, they catch them all the time, and this is just pretty much an average fish for this lake. It's one of the best kept secrets in the Southwest, and particularly here in Arkansas. And I see these guys at the fish cleaning station cleaning their limit all the time. So it's a really cool place. It's not a big place. It won't take a lot of pressure. We were here on a Sunday yesterday and the place was covered up with boats, so it's not really a secret by any stretch. This one, Gillum, DeQueen, and then Greason. 4 lakes that are just pretty much lined up across here, and they're all excellent, excellent crappie lakes. If you've never been to one of these lakes, you might want to give it a shot. We'll give you Dustin Holmes' contact information here in just a little bit. We're compiling a pretty good mess of them in the live well. This one goes and joins the rest of his baits.
Watch our latest episode or catch up on past episodes on our website at letsfishtv.com. Be sure to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter for new fishing videos every day. And download the free Waypoint TV app to get all the latest episodes every week on your phone, tablet, computer, or smart TV. Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Bobby Garland Crappie Baits and the original Baby Shad and new Slab Huntar Minnow. Glacier Glove. Stay outdoors longer with our gloves, hats, and shades. Balls Out. Made in the USA. Heavy-duty mounts for your fish finders. And by Caymas Boats. Tomorrow's tournament boat today.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get right to your Ask the Pro question for this week. Gus wants to know, what is your go-to bait when nothing else is working and why? For an answer, we asked Bassmaster Elite Angler Todd Otten.
I'd have to say it'd be a chatterbait. You know, that's probably one of the best baits I've had to make the most money on, and the reason why is it's a confidence thing. It's, you know, I've caught a ton of fish on that bait, and I can cover water. I don't know, I would have to say that bait is just a confidence bait. I know I'm going to catch some fish on it, and they're going to be good sized fish.
Thank you, Todd. If you want some help from one of the pros, simply go to letsfishtv.com and follow the Ask the Pro link to submit a question. Now it's time to find out who wins this week's Big Catch of the Week.
We are back at the boat ramp at Dirks Lake, Arkansas, and it's time right now for this week's winner in the Big Catch of the Week contest. He's Ted Romero of Edmond, Oklahoma, showing a 9-pound, 8-ounce largemouth bass he caught at Sooner Lake, Oklahoma. If you'd like to have a chance to be our next winner, just go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/letsfishtv. Go to our last Tuesday's post, it's about the Big Catch of the Week, and post your photo there along with all the details about your catch. I did mention earlier that you do need some specialized gear if you want to sight fish these crappie like we did on this week's show. Of course, you need the Lowrance LiveSight transducer to attach to your HDS system. But in addition to that, I like the Lew's Wally Marshall Speed Shooter rod. It's actually made for shooting docks, but I've adopted it for my all-around crappie use. Now the line on this setup is critical as well. I like braided line, about 6 or 8 pound test braid, because I like to see where my line's entering the water and how far it is away from that transducer at all times. But for this clear water, I've got to use fluorocarbon leader. So I tied about 6 feet fluorocarbon leader 6-pound test to that braid. The two baits that we use to catch these big crappie on this week's show, on the left, the Garland Slab Hunter. It's a great swimming bait to swim through those schools. They got a little finicky later on in the day, and on your right, I had to go to the Garland Slab Slayer. That's a tested, tried and true bait, and that darker color seemed to do pretty well on this dark day. Does the name Curly Neal ring a bell with you at all? Curly Neal was a basketball player for the Harlem Globetrotters from 1963 to 1985, and he passed away this year at the age of 77. He played over 6,000 games for the Globetrotters. Who could forget his antics, his passing the ball, his magic dribbling, his half-court shots, and yes, even that stunt where he throws the pail of water on the crowd and it turns out to be confetti. Well, I don't really have a big point in all of this except to recognize the accomplishments and the career of Curly Neal. He made a big impression on a young teen, me, growing up in the 60s. I've got a lot of warm memories of watching the wide world of sports and Curly Neal on the Harlem Globetrotters, and I remember it well more than 50 years later. Before we get out of here this week, I did want to show you just a few of the crappie that we caught on this week's episode. These are all good sized slabs, and we caught big one after big one this week. This is just a few of the live well that I've got in there. We're going to take some home for a fish fry. If you would like, come book a trip here at Dirks or any of the other lakes here in southwest Arkansas, including Lake Greason. You can contact Dustin Holmes. Contact information you see on your screen. He'll put you on them, fillet them up. You can take them home for your very own fish fry. From Dirks Lake, Arkansas, until next week, let's fish, everybody. I'm Barry Stokes saying be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to see more fishing tips, how-to videos, big fish catches, and full episodes of our Let's Fish TV show, be sure to subscribe right here to our YouTube channel. You can also like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. Good fishing out there.